Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible architecture that shapes our social lives. We're talking about the hidden rules that run everything, from your closest friends to, well, the entire world. So let's just jump right in with a question I think we've all felt. Why does grabbing a coffee with your friends feel worlds away from a team meeting at work? I mean, they're both groups of people, right? Well, sociology has a really fascinating and specific answer to that. Okay, first things first. Before we can really understand what a social group is, we've got to get clear on what it isn't. In everyday chat, we throw the word group around for any bunch of people, but sociologists, they're a little more particular. So picture this. You're at a restaurant. There are other people there, sure, you're all in the same place at the same time, but you probably don't know them, you're not really interacting. In sociology, that's not a group. That's what we call an aggregate. It's basically just a random collection of individuals. All right, then you've got a category. Now, this is a step up. This is a collection of people who all share some kind of common trait. Maybe it's everyone with green eyes, or everyone who's a fan of the same band. They have something in common, for sure, but they aren't necessarily interacting because of it. And that brings us to the real deal, a social group. This is where the magic happens. A true social group has two key ingredients. One, you interact with each other regularly, and two, you share a sense of belonging, a feeling of we. This is what separates your family from a bunch of strangers in a coffee shop. So here's the thing. Not all these social groups are created equal, not by a long shot. In fact, sociologists basically sort them into two fundamental types that pretty much define our entire social lives. And this lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you've got your primary groups. This is your inner circle, family, your closest friends. These relationships are super personal, they last a long time, and you're in them just for the sake of the relationship itself. You don't hang out with your best friend to get something done. The friendship is the point. Then on the other side, you have secondary groups. Think about your coworkers or the people in your biology class. These groups are usually bigger, way more impersonal, and they're all about achieving a specific goal. They're a means to an end, whether that's finishing a project or passing an exam. You can actually picture your whole social world as a kind of network, with you right there at the center. That tight inner circle, that's your primary group, the people you feel really close to. And those outer circles, those are all your secondary groups. They're connected to you, yeah, but with a bit more distance. It's pretty much a map of your personal social universe. So let's keep building on this. What happens when groups get really, really big? I mean, too big for just personal relationships to hold them together. How does a whole society organize millions of people to get massive things done? You've heard this saying a million times, right? Well, it's actually a pretty deep sociological idea. A group of two, what's called a dyad, is super personal and intense. But the second you add a third person, a triad, the whole dynamic changes completely. Now imagine a group of 300 or 3,000. As groups get bigger, you just can't rely on feelings and personal ties anymore. You need formal rules to make things work. And that's exactly what leads to formal organizations. These are large secondary groups that are specifically designed to achieve their goals as efficiently as possible. And the blueprint for most of them was figured out by the legendary sociologist Max Weber. He called it a bureaucracy. These 6 things, this is basically the recipe for how our modern world is run. It all starts with a clear structure, specialization, so everybody has their own job, and a hierarchy, so there's a clear chain of command. It runs on consistent principles, written rules, hiring people who are actually qualified, and being impersonal, so the rules apply fairly to everyone. And it's all held together by writing everything down, creating a formal paper trail. This is the engine that powers governments, big companies, you name it.
Okay, so we've got individuals, we've got our groups, and we've got these massive organizations. But how does sociologists even begin to make sense of all of it? Well, they use 3 different theoretical lenses, or perspectives, to understand how all these pieces fit together.
And this table is basically the perfect cheat sheet. First up, you've got structural functionalism. This is a big picture, or macro view, that sees society as a complex system where all the parts work together to keep things stable. Then there's the conflict perspective, also macro, which sees society more as an arena where different groups are constantly competing for power and resources. And finally, you have symbolic interactionism, which zooms way into the micro level. It's all about how our face-to-face daily interactions actually build our social world from the ground up. To really get structural functionalism, there's this powerful idea called the organic analogy. Seriously, think of society like a human body. Institutions like the family, the school system, the economy, they're all like vital organs. The family reproduces the population, schools teach skills, the economy makes stuff we need. Each part has a very specific job to do to keep the whole body, the whole society, healthy and stable. All right, so now let's take all these classic ideas and slam them right into the 21st century. Let's see how they apply to what might be the biggest social experiment in all of human history, the internet and social media. Just look at that number. Let it sink in. Nearly 4 billion people using social media around the world. We are forming these massive digital networks, these new kinds of secondary groups, on a scale that was just completely unimaginable a few decades ago. We're connected in ways that are literally creating brand new social structures right before our eyes. But, this new world of digital groups, it comes with some pretty unique challenges. Because these connections are so often impersonal and curated, a lot like those secondary groups we talked about, they can really crank up social comparison, which can hammer our self-esteem. Some research even links all this constant connectivity to things like anxiety and depression. It's a whole new social landscape out there, with new rules and, well, new consequences. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that your life right now is shaped by this invisible web of groups and organizations. From your family dinner table to your list of online followers, they all operate with a kind of logic. And understanding that logic, knowing the difference between a primary and a secondary group, seeing the purpose of a bureaucracy, it doesn't just help you understand the world, it actually empowers you to navigate it better, to be more conscious of how it works. So the rules have been revealed. The only question left is, how are you going to play?